So the embodied carbon game is an activity that Thornton Tomasetti likes to do with some of the architects we work with, some of the owners and building professionals we work with. And it really is a mix of an educational presentation about what embodied carbon is, what the drivers are in the structural systems, and what we can do to reduce that embodied carbon. We like to do an activity and show the architects how this process might work on a real project, what design decisions they're going to need to make, and how those decisions affect the embodied carbon. We think there's a real benefit to educating architects about this topic because of the power that architects and the engineers who team with them have in reducing embodied carbon. The design decisions we make on these projects really impact the ultimate carbon footprint of the building. And if we know what those drivers are, then we can change them. We can pull different levers during our design process to ultimately reduce the final carbon footprint of the building. So why make this a game instead of just a presentation where we stand up and talk? What I've found is that it really helps for people in the audience to stop and talk to each other. That conversation really helps reinforce the ideas. People ask each other questions. Did you remember this the same way that I did? And then they're applying that knowledge. They're taking these sort of small pretend steps that they would actually take in a project. And ultimately at the end, everybody has fun when they figure out which team had the lowest carbon or made the best design decisions for their client. So the way the game works is that we're designing a hypothetical building. It's a very easy building. The teams are only making a few design decisions, but each team is given a slightly different assignment. We have different clients who are going to have different priorities, just like we would have in a real project. They might be open to using mass timber or not open to mass timber. They might be designing a college dorm or a condo. And each of those are going to have different priorities. Are they heavily prioritizing cost or sustainability or maybe something else about their space? So once they find out their clients, the teams break up and talk amongst themselves about what they think the best series of decisions are for their project and for the embodied carbon. So each team gets some physical material. There's a physical 11 by 17 placemat and cards for all of these design decisions. So each decision will have a range of options in front of you, some visuals, some hints about what might reduce embodied carbon. And so you're physically manipulating with your team what these decisions will be before you ultimately enter them into a Power BI sheet that Thornton Tomasetti's Core Studio developed as a way to make this interface smooth and quickly and easily display large amounts of information. So what this does is everyone can immediately see how they did relative to the other teams, but they can also quickly look at this broad range of data. What was the whole range of possible outcomes from the design decisions they made? And what was the influence of all these different decisions ultimately on the carbon footprint? I think the ability to see that data and see what the drivers are, again, really reinforces how powerful these design levers are. So if you're interested in playing the embodied carbon game, contact me and we'll find a time to learn about these levers and reduce embodied carbon on your next project.